Michael Joseph Jackson was born in Gary, Indiana on August 29, 1958. The city has been historically dominated by major industrial activity and is home to U.S. Steel's Gary Works, the largest steel mill complex in North America. The city hit its stride in the 1960s and was dubbed the Magic City for its futuristic advances. By the 1920s, Gary Works operated 12 blast furnaces and employed over 16,000 workers, making it the largest steel plant in the country. Gary is located along the southern shore of Lake Michigan, about 25 miles east of downtown Chicago, Illinois. In the early and mid-90s, Black people experienced segregation and racial discrimination in Gary, Indiana. The school board headed by U.S. Steel's officials kept Black students segregated. Blacks were given the worst and most dangerous jobs at the mills. He was the eighth of 10 children in the Jackson family, a working-class African-American family living in a two-bedroom house on Jackson Street. His mother, Catherine Esther Jackson, played clarinet and piano, had inspired to be a country and western performer, and worked part-time at Sears. She was a Jehovah's Witness. His father, Joe, an aspiring boxer and a musician, realized supporting his family would have to take priority, and he worked as a welder and crane operator at a U.S. Steel, sometimes holding these three jobs at the same time in order to look after his growing family. When Jackson was born in Gary in 1958, it was a booming part of the Chicago suburban area that provided employment opportunities for African American families. Sadly, the loss of the steel industry, which had employed Michael's father, Joe, led to a drastic reduction in the population of the town. It is now one of the poorest and most violent cities in the Midwest. It is currently estimated that at least 1/3 of the city's houses are abandoned or vacant. Joe Jackson settled at age 18 in Gary, Indiana, where he met and courted future wife Catherine Screws. Married in 1949, they would have 10 children together over a period of 16 years. Rebe Jackson, Tito, Jermaine, Latoya, Marlon, Brandon, Marlon's twin who died shortly after birth, Michael, Randy, and Janet. Michael would learn from an early age that his childhood was different from other kids. In his memoir, You Are Not Alone, Jermaine writes about looking out from their house at the decorated homes across the street when he was 8 years old and Michael was 4. We observed all of this from inside a house with no tree, no lights, no nothing. Our tiny house was only one without decoration. We felt it was the only one in Gary, Indiana. But Mother assured us that no, there were other homes and other Jehovah's Witnesses who did not celebrate Christmas. But that knowledge did nothing to clear our confusion. We could see something that made us feel good, yet we were told it wasn't good for us. In 1964, Joe found Tito playing with his guitar after a string broke, and he was impressed enough to buy him his own guitar. Tito, Jermaine, and Jackie later formed their own group. Then Michael and Marlon joined the Jackson brothers as backup musicians, playing congas, the tambourine. We were a family that sang all the time. Michael once said of his early life in Gary, we would take the furniture out of the living room and dance. We would have a songwriting competition while we washed the dishes, while we were cleaning. Music was our destiny. Michael was originally just a background singer and performer. However, he soon started singing lead vocals with Jermaine, and the band's name was changed to the Jackson 5. In 1966, the group won their first talent show at Theodore Roosevelt High School in Gary. Jermaine performed The Temptations' My Girl, and Michael performed Robert Parker's Barefootin' during their early performing years. The Jackson 5 would perform at other talent showcases at several other Gary schools, in the halls and theaters in Gary and the Chicago area. In August 1967, the boys were eventually booked into venues such as Chicago's Regal Theater and Harlem's Apollo Theater, winning the talent competitions on both shows that year, winning the Apollo competition on August 13th. In November 1967, Joe Jackson signed the group into Steeltown Records, a label found and owned by record producer Gordon Keefe. With Keefe at the helm, they recorded Big Boy that same month. The song would later be released as a single in January 1968. By March, Keefe had managed to sign the Jackson 5 into a distribution deal with Atlantic Records, where Big Boy and another single, We Don't Have to Be Over 21 to Fall in Love, were distributed. Big Boy eventually moved 10,000 copies. On March 11, 1968, the Jackson 5 signed an exclusive 7-year contract with the label Motown. When Michael would have been just 10 years old, in August, Motown's PR machine, led by Suzanne de Passe, started to pass off the group as having been discovered by Supreme's lead singer Diana Ross. When the group opened for record industry insiders at Los Angeles club The Daisy, Michael was billed as an 8-year-old sensation. Though he was several days shy of his 11th birthday, shortly after the Daisy performance, the Jackson 5 performed a cover of It's Your Thing at the Miss Black America pageant in New York. By September, Gordy had set up the new songwriting and producing team, the corporation, to write exclusively for the Jackson 5. After recording I Want You Back, that same month, the single was released in early October, and the Jacksons promoted the song on programs such as Hollywood Palace and The Ed Sullivan Show. Their debut album, Diana Ross Presents the Jackson 5, was released in December 1969. The Jackson 5 became Motown's main marketing focus, and the label capitalized on the group's youth appeal, licensing dozens of products, including the Jackson 5 heart logo on Johnny Jackson's drum set, the group's album covers, stickers, posters, and coloring books, as well as board game and a Saturday morning cartoon, the Jackson 5 TV series, produced by Rankin Bass. The black publication Right On began in 1971 and focused heavily on the Jackson 5, with members adoring covers between January 1972 and April 1974. The Jackson 5 was featured on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine at a time when Rolling Stone didn't usually cover kid acts. They also graced the covers of Life magazine and Ebony magazine. The group appeared in several television specials, including Diana Ross' 1971 special Diana. They starred in their first of 2 Motown-oriented television specials, Going Back to Indiana in September. Their second was The Jackson 5 Show, which debuted in November of the following year. However, this process was everything but fun for Michael. Joe enforced long and grueling rehearsals for his sons in order for them to have their songs and routines polished. It is this cooping of a childhood Michael would come to limit the rest of his life. Michael often said he grew up in an adult world. I grew up on stage. I grew up in nightclubs. When I was 7, 8 years old, I was in nightclubs. He revealed in a 2002 Gold magazine interview. I saw striptease girls take off all their clothes. I saw fights break out. I saw people throw up on each other. I saw adults act like pigs. Joseph was known as an abusive father. Michael claimed that from a young age, he was physically and emotionally abused by his father, enduring insistent rehearsals, whippings, and name-calling, but also said that his father's strict discipline played a large part in his success. Michael once revealed to Oprah Winfrey that he was so afraid of his father, it would cause him to vomit when he saw him. Physical beatings were not uncommon. I just remember me hearing my mother scream, "Joe, you're going to kill him. You're going to kill him. Stop it." Michael said during a 2003 TV interview, "I was so fast he couldn't catch me half the time. But when he would catch me, oh my God, it was bad. It was really bad." Both of Jackson's parents have denied the long-standing abuse allegations. and Catherine acknowledges that although the whippings are viewed as child abuse, my current generation's such disciplinary methods were normal back then. In an interview, Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, and Marlon have also denied that their father is abusive. And according to Jermaine, he is second to Michael, one of the most misunderstood people. In 1975, they were struggling to release new songs and were forced to move from Motown to Epic Records, changing their name to the Jacksons. As well as that, Michael's solo fame started to eclipse his brothers, especially with the 1979 album Off the Wall and the 1982 album Thriller. In December 1984, Michael announced he was leaving the band after their performance at the Dodger Stadium. The following month, Marlon left the band, after which the band's last record was released in 1987. His fifth solo album, Off the Wall, was the first time he had been truly established as a solo artist, and from here he began to release solo albums. Needless to say, it was from here when people really started to understand Michael Jackson better as a solo artist, as he was the thrust into the public sphere as a solo performer.